Welcome to Creature Class, where the natural world is not just observed, but understood. Tonight, I want to tell you something that doesn't sound real. Something so ancient, so raw, that once you hear it, the way you see animals, the way you feel them, will change forever. These aren't just animal facts. They are memories carved into the bones of the earth. They are truths whispered in the bloodline of predators and prey. They are the kind of stories that don't show up in textbooks, only in scars, in stares, in the shiver of leaves when something's watching. So take a breath. Let the world slow down. And listen, not with your ears, but with whatever's left inside you that still believes in the wild. The snow leopard's silence high in the throat of the Himalayas, where the air is thinner than trust and silence stretches farther than sound. There moves a ghost, not a spirit, but close. A snow leopard, cloaked in white smoke and shadows, pads along the edge of a frozen cliff. Her name doesn't matter, because no human has given her one. She doesn't know the word leopard. All she knows is hunger, wind, and waiting. The cold bites at her paws, but she doesn't flinch. The silence is so heavy, it's like the mountains are holding their breath. She's been tracking a herd of blue sheep for 4 days. Not chasing. Not running. Just watching. Moving with a patience that doesn't exist in the human world. A stillness that feels less like waiting and more like praying. She hasn't eaten in 6 days, and you can feel it in her body, every rib. A whisper of desperation. Every muscle coiled like the last strand of hope. But here's the thing, she doesn't panic. Not once. Because in a world, survival is not about speed or strength, it's about silence. She blends with the blizzard, her fur catching snowflakes like secrets. She steps so softly the earth barely feels her. And when she stops to breathe, even the wind goes quiet. You begin to realize she is not just in the mountains. She is the mountains. When she finally pounces, when the tension breaks and the cliff erupts into movement, it's over in seconds. She falls with the force of inevitability. Claws out. Jaws wide. Heart locked in. She doesn't always win, but tonight, she does, and as her body sinks into the warm neck of her prey, something in her exhales, not relief, not triumph. Just stillness. As if feeding is not victory. It's just the pause between hungers. She disappears into the snow again, and the mountain breathes out, the matriarch's grief, the elephant who remembers under the cracked sky of the African savanna, where the grass bleeds gold and the air hangs thick with the weight of old stories. There walks a giant with a heavy heart. Her tusks are long. Her skin is canyoned with time. But it's her eyes that tell the story. They are tired in a way that isn't just age, it's something deeper. A tiredness that comes from remembering too much. She is the matriarch, the keeper of the herd's memory. And 2 moons ago, her daughter died. They say elephants never forget. What they don't say is how it hurts. Every morning, this mother returns to the spot where her daughter's bones lie bleached in the sun. She stands over them with a stillness that is louder than thunder. Her trunk brushes the ivory over and over. The way a human mother might trace the outline of a child's photograph. There is no sound, but if you listen, really listen, you can almost hear her heart cracking. The herd stands behind her, silent, mourning with her, mourning through her. She doesn't eat for days, doesn't move, just stands there as vultures circle above, as the dry wind carries the scent of her grief across the plain. Then, one dawn, she does something strange. She lifts a branch, places it gently on the skull, then another and another. A ritual. A burial. A goodbye that no one taught her, but she somehow knows, and in that moment, you understand something you can't explain. This elephant is not just feeling loss, she is holding it, carrying it, living with it, just like we do. The octopus that vanished beneath the waves, where sunlight becomes a memory and silence hums in colors. We meet a mind unlike any other. An octopus, but not just any octopus. This one is a mother. She's found a cave in the reef. Small. Hidden. Perfect for what comes next. She lays her eggs, tens of thousands of them, each one a tiny echo of herself, and then she waits. She stops eating, stops exploring. Her world becomes no bigger than the cave and her unborn children. For 6 months, she guards them. Starving. Shrinking. Slowly fading. Predators pass. Currents shift. Her skin changes colors with the flick of instinct, hiding her in plain sight. But she never leaves. Never once, until the day comes, the eggs begin to hatch, tiny arms. Flickers of life. New octopuses drifting into a world they will never understand was bought with the life of the one who made them, and as they leave, the mother grows still, she lets the current take her, not because she is weak. Not because she's dying, but because her purpose is complete. She does not fear the end, she becomes it. The peregrines plunge above the city skyline, where steel meets sky and humans rarely look up. There exists a creature that defies gravity, the peregrine falcon. From 1,000 feet in the air, she dives, not falls, dives, at 240 miles per hour. Her body becomes a bullet. Her bones compact. Her wings slice the air like knives of wind. Why? Because a pigeon made one wrong move. But this isn't just a hunt. This is poetry at the edge of speed. The falcon feels every feather flex, every gust, every inch of sky between her and survival. Her eyes, 10 times sharper than yours, lock onto the target with impossible focus. The city below blurs. Time warps, and in that moment, she is not just alive, she is velocity. She is precision. She is freedom with talons. The pigeon never saw it coming, and the world moves on. Unaware that above them, something just shattered the sound of stillness. These were not stories, were they? They were echoes of things the wild knows that we've forgotten, about patience, about grief, about sacrifice, about being alive in a way that doesn't ask permission. So the next time you see an animal, don't just look. Listen, because the wild is always whispering. And some truths were never meant to be shouted, only felt, fades into soft ambient wilderness. You've just experienced Creature Class. If this moved you, stay curious. And let the wild change you. Fact 1. The octopus that remembers your face beneath the waves, far beneath the chaos of storms and ships and sunlight, there is a quiet the world forgets to listen to. This is not the calm of peace. It's the stillness of something waiting. A different kind of wilderness lives here, alien. Watching. Ancient in a way land never learned to be, and in the black hollow of a reef cave, hidden between folds of coral and shadow, 2 eyes open. Round. Slit-pupilled. Changing color even in the dark. As if they see more than light. As if they see you. An octopus, not large. Not monstrous. But unnerving. A fluid thing. All limbs and mind and silence. A creature with no bones, but a memory like a vault. Her skin pulses gently. Browns. Blues. Then a flicker of white that doesn't reflect mood, but remembrance. She knows this place. And she knows him, the man who dives alone. Who visits without nets. Without cages. Only breath and eyes and time. He's been coming here for years. And she remembers, not like a dog remembers a smell. No, she remembers his face. The shape of it. Behind the glass. The angle of his approach. The rhythm of his breath. She remembers the time he left food. And the time he didn't. She remembers both, because this is not a blank creature. This is not a mindless tentacle machine. This is a witness. 4 weeks, the diver returned. Floating into a realm like a visitor entering a forgotten cathedral. Careful. Curious. And she, at first, was skeptical. She would vanish into ink and crevice at his presence, but then, she stayed longer. Hovered near. Reached out. A single arm like a whisper against his hand. Tentacles tasting. Testing. Trusting. Each sucker a fingertip of intelligence. She let him sit beside her cave. Let him watch as she played, yes, played, with a bottle cap he dropped one afternoon. Twisting it, tossing it, hiding it, then retrieving it like a riddle only she understood, and he laughed through his mask, and she remembered that sound. Then came the night of teeth and blood. The sea changed. A current broad in a stranger. Slithering. Hungry. Silent. A Murray eel. Long coiled. A flash of fang and intent. It moved with purpose. Toward the diver. Toward the warmth. The pulse. But something happened. The octopus saw, and she moved, not away. Not into the cave, toward the eel. She exploded from the rock like a living spell. Tentacles wide. Skin flashing black and white in violent waves. A display of rage. Of warning. She struck. Fast. Blinding. tentacles around the eel's face. Sucker sealing. Beak biting, the eel recoiled. Confused. Wounded. Retreating into a crack. In the coral, with a flick of insulted pride, the diver just hovered there. Stunned, and she, this small, soft, ancient thing, floated beside him. Changed, not tamed, known, the cave became sacred after that, the diver returned. Less often now. Years passed. The ocean aged around them, but she remembered. Always. Even after molting. Even after the tides pulled new stories into her world. When he came, older, slower, eyes still wide with awe, she still came to him, tentative. Then certain, they would sit, side by side, in the cold quiet womb of the sea, and nothing needed to be said. Because memory speaks louder than words. One day, he came again, and she was gone, only the empty shell of her cave. The twisted remains of past meals. No ink trail. No sign of struggle, she had left the way only old souls do, quietly. With purpose, the reef was quieter that day, and he floated there for a long time, hand resting where she used to reach. They call it intelligence. Emotion. Bonding. Revenge. Whatever word science likes best that day, but the truth is simpler. She knew him, she remembered kindness, she defended it, and then she disappeared, not because she was a mystery, but because she was the sea, always close, always watching, always leaving. Fact 2. Elephants that mourn their dead for decades. The wind moves through the bones first, not like a gust. More like a memory. It slips through the rib cage, brushing dry grass against sun-bleached ivory. The skull lies tilted in the red dust. Cracked. Empty-eyed. But not forgotten, not here, not by her. She's been gone for 6 seasons. But she comes back. Always. Not because she hopes the dead will rise. But because they shouldn't be left behind. The matriarch stands still. Wide, heavy, scarred by time, but dignified like a queen without need of a crown. Her ears hang low. Her breath is slow. Her eyes, dark, deep, and humanless, settle on the bones that once carried her sister. This is not curiosity. It's grief that never got a name, and it began long before today. She was young once. Before the weight of leadership shaped her back and slowed her steps. When they used to walk together, shoulder to shoulder, through flood and famine. When the dry season would crack the earth like broken promises and they would dig for water. With tusks dulled by effort and love, her sister was the wild one. The bold one. The one who would trumpet into the dark when lions prowled too close, who chased jackals from calves, who could find a hidden spring days before the herd gave up hope. They moved like twin shadows. Where one went, the other followed, until the day one didn't rise. It was a morning without color, buzzards circled too early. The air held the kind of stillness that comes before something breaks. Her sister lay beneath an acacia. Legs folded awkwardly. Tusks buried in the dirt like weapons she'd surrendered. Her breathing had slowed in the night. Then stopped to the herd gathered, confused. Unsettled. But the matriarch did not cry. She stayed 4 hours. Then days. She wrapped her trunk around her sister's tusk again and again, as if the repetition might pull her back. As if grief was a rope, and she could drag her through, but the body grew cold. The flies came. And the savannah moved on, but the matriarch did not. She stopped eating, stopped moving, stopped leading, and the herd, loyal, frightened, began to fray. They circled her, unsure. Waiting for something primal to kick in. Something ancient. Something in her bones that said, go. But she wouldn't, not until a young one, a calf barely past weaning, nudged her leg. Again. And again. The herd needed her, and slowly, she turned from the bones, but she never really left them. 3 years passed, rain fell. Droughts returned. Calves were born and old bulls were pushed out. She led the herd through it all. But something behind her eyes never came back. As if a part of her had been buried in that red earth, and no season could uncover it, until one morning, she stopped walking. The herd followed her gaze across the horizon. Toward a grove that had grown strange with time. Toward bones, the bones, she walked ahead of them. Slowly. Heavily. Her breath catching at the scent she hadn't smelled in years, but would never forget, and there it was, the skull. The tusks. The sunburnt memory of the one she had loved longer than she had feared death. She stepped close. Lowered her head. Pressed her trunk against the bone, she did not call, she did not cry, but the wind carried something between them. Something so old, so low, it couldn't be called sound. More like recognition. More like returning. She stayed like that for hours, and when she turned back to the herd, her eyes were not healed, but they were open again. They say elephants don't bury their dead, but they carry them in silence, in scars, in slow returns. To the places where love once lived, the matriarch still leads. She walks slower now, lingers longer when she passes that grove, and when her time comes, when her knees buckle and the sky lowers itself to meet her, she will not die afraid, because she knows someone will come. They always come. Fact 3. Crows that go to war and hold grudges. There's a silence in cities that most people never hear. It doesn't live in the alleys, or the rush, or the sirens. It lives above all that, in the shadows that pass between rooftops, in the beat of wings against glass and wind, in eyes sharper than steel and black as night fire. It lives in the crows, and tonight, they remember, this isn't the story you think it is. It doesn't start with feathers or food. It starts with a girl, barely old enough to be scared of the right things, standing on her apartment balcony in the rain, watching the sky. She didn't come looking for anything. Just quiet. Escape. A place to think, but they came, the crows, first. 1. Then 3. Then more. Perched along the railing. Heads tilted like questions she didn't know she was asking. They didn't caw. They didn't threaten. They just watched her. She watched them back day after day. Same time. Same faces, yes. Faces. Each one shaped by scars and shadows, recognizable in a way she didn't know birds could be. She brought scraps of bread at first. Then meat. Then whole pieces of her lunch. A ritual. She didn't speak, but they understood, and something formed between them, not trust, something older than that. Years passed. She grew. The world got louder. Harder. She forgot things like poems, promises, the feeling of safety. But not the crows. They stayed, not always visible, but their eye in the background. Perched on streetlights. Following at a distance. Appearing on power lines when her steps slowed with worry. Like black shadows that refused to fully vanish. She never asked why, until one night, she found out. A corner. A hand. A sudden shove at the man. Didn't say a word. Just took. Grabbed. Shoved her down behind a dumpster like she wasn't a person, just another body in the dark. Panic flooded her faster than her breath. Limbs froze. A sound got stuck in her throat. Her heartbeat slammed against her ribs like a prisoner trying to escape, but something else moved faster. It started with a flutter, then a scream, not hers, theirs. The air exploded, wings sliced through shadow. Claws scratched metal. Beaks struck like daggers dipped in fire. Caws rang out like war cries, raw, violent, ancient. He ran, blind. Bleeding. Swatting at air like it was alive, and maybe it was. They didn't chase him far. Just far enough to mark him. Just long enough to remember, and then, silence. She sat there on the wet pavement, too stunned to cry, as feathers fell around her like black snow. One landed in her lap, still warm, and from the fire escape above, 3 crows watched, same ones. Same eyes. You can't explain that moment. Not with science. Not with logic. It wasn't gratitude. It wasn't coincidence. It was justice, the kind the city had forgotten. But the story doesn't end there, because crows don't forget. That man, they followed him, not for days, for years. Every time he walked the street, they screamed. Swarmed. Marked him. He changed his route. Changed his clothes. Grew his hair. Didn't matter. They knew him, and they taught their children, each new brood, trained to recognize the shape of his face. The tilt of his walk. The scent of his anger. It passed down like a curse. He moved cities eventually. And the streets felt lighter. Cleaner. Like the crows had declared the balance restored, but the girl never forgot what it felt like. To be protected. By something wild. Now she walks differently, head high. Eyes up, and when she sees them on the wires on the roof, in the quiet corners where the wind hides, she nods, and they watch, not because they belong to her, but because she belongs to them. Fact 4, dolphins that speak names and save humans. There's a language beneath the sea that isn't written in words. It's sung in whistles, shaped in echoes, stitched together by breath and memory. A language not made for humans, but once. It remembered one. It was morning, though the sky had already forgotten that the ocean was cold. Grey. Flattened by wind, stretched thin by distance. And 5 swimmers drifted out where land no longer cared. Just a fun dive. Nothing serious. Until the current twisted. And the depth changed. They didn't see it at first, but something did, something fast. Something watching. It was a bull shark. At first, so they thought. But it wasn't. It was worse. Bigger. Quieter. Older. A great white, circling below like a thought you can't shake. Heavy, pale, and ancient, coasting the edge of awareness. No splashing. No thrashing. Just presence and fear. It climbed up their spines before their eyes found it. A shadow too straight. A movement too controlled. That kind of fear doesn't need permission. And then, the sea shifted, not with the shark, with them, the dolphins. 7 of them, fast. Loud. Alive in ways the shark could never be. Bursting from the deep like arrows drawn from blue. They didn't pass by. They didn't flee. They formed a wall around the humans. One by one, they surfaced, tight circle. No hesitation. Moving faster than instinct should allow. Whistles flying between them like orders, like names, and in that moment, the humans weren't alone. They were claimed. The great white circled wide again. Slower now. Calculating, but this wasn't its kind of hunt. The dolphins dove as one, striking the water like lightning cast from muscle and will. They didn't attack. Not yet. They warned. This was territory now, this was family now. You could see it in their movement, how they passed signals mouth to mouth, fin to fin. How they tightened the circle with each lap, never breaking rhythm. Protecting not because they were told, because they chose to, because they knew, and that shark, it understood. It sank. Vanished. As if the sea itself had rejected it. The threat passed, and the humans, shivering, breathless, helpless in a world that wasn't theirs, were still surrounded. 1 Dolphin swam close. Looked up. Whistled, not a sound. A name, not a cry for help. A reminder, you were seen, you were remembered. This isn't the kind of rescue you put in books. There were no rescue boats. No dramatic music. Just the steady pulse of something wild deciding you mattered enough to live. And when the swimmers finally reached shore, every heartbeat echoing what they didn't understand, they turned. The dolphins were still there watching, then gone. But the story isn't about humans. It never was, because back in the reef, past the ledges where light breaks into ribbons and fish scatter like falling stars, those dolphins sing names, not random calls. Not echoes, names, specific, sacred, remembered. They don't just call out. They summon one another, mother to calf. Mate to mate. Friend to friend, each whistle a fingerprint. A soul print. A memory shaped in water, and when one disappears, lost to sickness, sharks, storms, they still call them. Sometimes for days. Sometimes longer, because in their world, names don't die, they drift, they echo, they wait to be answered. There was a young male once, sharp scar behind his left fin, fast even for his kind. His name sounded like 3 whistles and a click. The others would call it like laughter. He got caught in a fishing line. Hours of thrashing. Days of panic. The pod tried. Tugged. Circled. Tried again. By the time they freed him, he floated slow. Didn't dive. Didn't answer. That night, they surrounded him, silent, and then one by one, they called his name, not to wake him. To keep him. To reminder. Ocean, he had been here, that he mattered. They know us, not just as threats. Not just as noise. As individuals, there are dolphins who remember faces they saw years ago. Who return to certain boats. Certain bays. Certain voices, not out of hunger, but because recognition is a kind of home. They are not saviors, they are not stories, they are selves, breathing, singing, choosing, and when they protect, it's not because they think like us. It's because they don't have to. Fact 5, ants that keep slaves and stage rebellions beneath your feet, in the cool earth where roots twist like veins and light has never touched, something brutal unfolds, not war as you know it, not glory, not good and evil, just survival, sharpened to its rawest shape, and tonight, it has a name. She's not born for rebellion. Not built for vengeance. Just another worker in a world of narrow tunnels and narrower fate. One of thousands. Maybe millions. But something inside her aches like a drumbeat passed down in silence, because this colony is not hers. She was stolen, not just taken, rewritten, snatched. As a larva by jaws that didn't smell like family, swaddled in pheromones not her own, fed lies as food until her instincts bent like branches in wind, and still, she remembers, not clearly, not in images, but in the scent of something lost. Something cleaner. Kinder. The faint, buried memory of home. She wakes each day inside a prison that dares to call itself purpose. She feeds the young of her captors. Tends their queens. Fights their wars. But her body, her blood, they know, and tonight, she turns. It starts with a tremor in the air. The colony's true children, her enslavers, rest in the chamber's curve, limbs twitching in sleep, antennae curled in peace. They didn't turn, but she doesn't sleep. She hunts, not for food. Not for escape, for a trail. A path, traced in chemicals so precise they speak louder than sound. She moves through corridors like breath through lungs, slow, unseen, deliberate. On her back a gland pulses. It was never meant to rebel, but evolution doesn't ask permission. It remembers. She reaches the nursery chamber, rows of eggs like silent questions, each one a heartbeat waiting to become a threat. Her own kind never made it here. They were crushed in the raid, dismembered before their instincts had time to awaken, but she made it, and now she answers. She releases a single line of scent, not strong. Precise. It coils through the air like a blade, sharp, subtle, fatal. The true daughters of the colony stir, awake, alert, confused, because what they smell now isn't order. It's betrayal. They swarm the chamber, jaws bared, antennae wild, but it's too late. Her trail has already reached the heart of the queen's chamber. Other slaves, some still buried in obedience, some silently waiting, recognize it. They rise, not with roars, with teeth, with acid, with death in their mouths. The queen wakes to a silence she's never heard before. Not reverence. Absence. No guards. No workers. No pheromone veil of worship, just the scent of one thing, revolution. She tries to flee, but even royalty moves slow when the system that crowned her collapses. The rebels reach her. They do not bow, they do not warn, they dismantle, piece by piece, leg by leg, until her reign is reduced to what it always was, flesh. The tunnels fill with a new scent, not death, freedom, but not the kind that sings or dances, the kind that burns, because when slaves rise in silence, the old world falls with them. She, the first, emerges into open air as dawn breaks. A breeze touches her for the first time. It does not smell like orders. It smells like possibility. She doesn't know what happens next, only that the colony behind her lies quiet, and that she will never return. Fact 6. The lizard that pretends to be dead, and then kills the desert doesn't give warnings. It doesn't growl before it strikes. Doesn't blink when the sun becomes a weapon, or when silence stretches so long, it starts to feel personal. Everything here survives by making you believe it's harmless. Until it doesn't. That's how he survives. A lizard no larger than your hand. Flattened. Spined. Dusted in the camouflage of dust and deceit. He looks like a rock. Nothing more. But tonight, he becomes something else. A ghost. A trap. The sun is low. Everything slows. Shadows stretch longer than their bodies. A bobcat prowls nearby, lean with hunger, but patient. She's been watching for hours, waiting for something foolish to move. He does, just barely. A twitch of one leg. It's all she needs. She lunges, graceful, brutal, sure, and he dies, right there, limbs limp. Eyes frozen. Body collapsed like breath. Had fled from bone. She circles, confused. Pauses, sniffs. He smells like blood. Like rot. Like something already claimed by the heat, but what she doesn't see is that he's not dying. Is acting, and the performance is flawless. This is not submission, this is warfare by stillness, because inside his body, everything burns. His pulse thunders. Muscles scream to run. But he waits. Still. Cold. His own blood, a weapon stored behind his eyes, presses against the edge of choice, because this isn't about escape. It's about timing. The bobcat leans closer. Teeth bared. Disgusted, too easy, too dead, she turns away, and that's when he moves. Not a flinch. A calculation. He flips, claws digging into the sand, mouth open, not to bite, but to buy time. She startles, stumbles back, and in that heartbeat of hesitation, he fires, not venom, not claws, blood, from his eyes. A red stream, pressurized and foul, aimed with the precision of instinct. Straight at her face, the scent is blinding. The taste. Acidic. It burns across her tongue, marks her as predator in ways she doesn't understand, but feels. She reels, not wounded, shamed. The lizard doesn't wait. He runs, head low, tail wide, vanishing between stones like he was never there. The desert closes behind him and he stops, under a scrub so small, it barely casts a shadow. His body trembles. Not from fear. From control. He outlived death again. By becoming it. This is not deception for the sake of trickery, this is survival born from understanding the rules and then breaking them. Is not faster than the bobcat, not stronger, but he knows how predators think. He lets them believe they've won. He lets them believe is broken, then he redefines the ending. Some animals run, some fight, some hide, but some, like him, wait until the world forgets them and then remind it why they were never prey to begin with. Fact 7. Orcas that play with their food, then teach their young. The sea up here doesn't move fast. It groans. It drags. It swells with stories older than the cold. And beneath that glass-black surface, something hunts, not for food, not just for the kill, but for knowledge. And tonight, the sea listens, because she is teaching. She is older than most in her pod. Her skin wears the stories of icebergs and storms. One eye clouded. One fin split from battles no one speaks of anymore, but her strength isn't in her size. It's in what she remembers and in what she passes on. At her side swims a calf, not yet scarred, not yet shaped. His skin is soft, but his gaze is sharpening. He does not yet know the rules of the hunt, only that is meant to learn them, and so, she shows him, not with words. With ritual, with purpose, with blood that means something more than hunger. Ahead, the ice shelf gleams like bone beneath moonlight, and there, alone, trembling, unaware, is a seal, warm, fragile. Still believing that ice can protect it, the calf twitches, surges forward. But her body blocks his path like a wall of muscle and command. Not yet. She circles, slow, wide, calculated, drawing the seal's fear out like thread from cloth. Then she dives. The calf watches as she disappears beneath the ice, re-emerges farther out, then dives again. She's not chasing. She's building. The current shifts. A low vibration thrums beneath the ice. The calf feels it before he sees it. The wave. Long, low, rolling like thunder through water. It hits the ice with a sound like a breath breaking. The seal slides, scrambles, nearly tumbles off. But it doesn't. Not yet. She does it again. This time, the calf follows, not beside her. Behind. He mimics her arc, feels the rhythm. Feels the sea bend around his body like a muscle learning to speak. They breach together. Two shadows in the frozen twilight, then another wave, and this time the seal falls, screams, slaps, fights the water like it can turn it back to ice, but the sea doesn't give second chances, and neither does she. She does not kill it immediately. She nudges it. Circles. Lets it climb back on. The calf hesitates. She waits, and he understands. This is not about death. This is about repetition, about skill, about remembering that the sea gives nothing freely. Not the hunt, not survival, not a legacy. So he tries again. This time, his wave is crooked. The seal slips, but catches the edge. She doesn't correct him. She only watches, and when he tries again, and the seal slides clean into the water, she doesn't rush to end it. She lets him make the choice, and he does. The calf charges, clumsy, raw, but relentless. He rams, misses, tries again, until the seal no longer moves, until the sea settles, until she exhales, and the lesson is done. They do not feed, not this time, because this was not a meal, this was a ceremony, the kind passed down not by instinct, but by intention. By a mother who knows that strength isn't born. It's taught. One mistake at a time. One wave at a time. One kill at a time. They swim on, past the place where the ice remembers, past the place where fear became knowledge, past the blood. The calf keeps close now, not out of dependence, but respect, and the next time he dives, he carries the sea differently. Fact 8. Parrots that go mad in captivity and fall in love in the wild. Before she had the sky, she had a cage, cold, small, bright in all the wrong ways. A metal box pretending to be home, filled with noise but no sound. Laughter, television, the echoes of a name that once meant affection, now an anchor. Lena. Spoken again and again. Not out of joy, but desperation. Like saying it might rebuild the world that shattered the moment she was taken, she learned it early, she repeated it often, because in captivity, language is survival. Repetition becomes memory. Memory becomes identity, and Elena was all she had. She plucked her feathers until her skin bled. Screamed through the bars until her throat was raw. Twitched in rhythms that weren't hers, rhythms made of loneliness. And electric lights, some call it mimicry, but this wasn't mimicry, this was grief, grief in a body that had never been told how to mourn. Years passed. Or days. Time has no shape in a cage. Then came the door. Open hands. Gentle words of freedom, they called it, but to her, it smelled like fear, because how do you return to a sky you were never allowed to earn? They took her to the edge of the rainforest. No glass. No steel. Just wind, trees, and a sky that didn't end. She didn't fly at first, she just sat silent. Still, the world was too large. Too wild. Too true, and she was afraid it might reject her, but the forest is patient. It doesn't ask for permission. It just breathes and waits. Then came another parrot, green like her. Wary like her. But with eyes that had never seen bars. He didn't speak her name. He didn't speak any name. He sang, not for her, but around her. A song made of rustling leaves and heat rising from bark. A song without words, yet full of meaning and something. In her stirred, not memory, instinct, she followed him, tentative. Clumsy, not because she was weak, but because she was remembering how to be wild. He offered no comfort. No sympathy, only space, and in that space, she healed. One feather at a time. Weeks passed, she stopped screaming, started mimicking the rain instead, the wind, the frogs, his wing beats, and one day, when the wind fell silent, and the forest held its breath, she opened her mouth. And Elena was gone, not forgotten, released, like a name once borrowed, returned to the silence it came from. Now she flies without speaking. No words. No cage, just song, soft. True. Whole, she perches high in the canopy, beside him, watching. Storms rise from the horizon like memories too far to hurt her anymore. She doesn't need to speak love, she lives in every glide. Every feather she no longer pulls. Every dawn she meets with eyes unclouded by fluorescent light. She was once owned, now she belongs not to a person. Not to a past. To herself, and to the air that never once asked her to be anything less than wild. Fact 9. Wolves that adopt outside pups and break the alpha myth. He came alone. A ragged shadow slipping through the frozen world. Fur matted with cold and hunger. Eyes wide with fear, but flickering with something softer, a fragile hope. No pack. No scent of family, just the endless white and silence. They heard him before they saw him. A low whimper beneath the pines, curiosity edged with caution, because the pack knows, this world isn't kind to those left behind. She was the first. A silver coat streaked with scars. Not the fiercest. Not the loudest, but her gaze held the gravity of one who has seen what loneliness feels like and refused to become it. She approached, slow. Respectful, not as a threat, but as a promise. The pup flinched, instinct screamed, run, but something in her presence pulled at his ragged breath. She nuzzled him once, then again, and the pack listened. A fragile acceptance took root beneath the ancient trees. He was not chased away, not hunted. He was welcomed. Days passed like endless nights, the cold pressed in like a weight, but the pack circled close. They taught him to hunt. To trust. To howl. To belong. The alpha wasn't the biggest, nor the loudest, nor the most brutal. It was the one who healed, who held, who led, not by fear, but by care, and slowly, the pup grew, not just in strength, but in heart. He watched her, the one who had chosen to protect, and he learned that power is not a roar. It's a breath shared in the dark. It's the hand that doesn't push away the lost. It's the warmth beside you when the cold threatens to break everything you are. Snow fell heavier now, blanketing the forest like a quiet blessing. The pack moved as one, every paw print a story of survival, loyalty, and love. No crown of dominance. No throne built on cruelty, only family. The pup, once lost, now howled with them, not beneath the shadow of alpha, but beside the heart of home. Fact 10. Whales that sing songs thousands of miles long, and remember you. There's a song that lives beneath the waves, not one you hear, but one you feel. It rolls through the cold blue, vast, endless, haunting a melody older than memory and yet, always new. She is the composer, a giant carved from water and salt, moving through a world we barely touch. Her voice is not a sound, it's a language of presence, of longing, of stories carried on currents that span continents, in the trenches where sunlight never reaches. The song begins slow notes spiral up, twisting through fathoms of dark, each phrase a wave that breaks on distant shores, a new verse born from the old. She sings not alone, thousands of miles away, others catch the tune, learn it, change it, pass it, own a chorus of souls, connected by melody, carrying a language that no human can fully grasp. A marine biologist listens alone. Beneath the surface, her breath held tight, she plays a melody back, not just sound, an offering a question. Months later the ocean answers, a song returns, familiar change days. If the deep remembers, here as if the whale has kept her voice, carried it through tides and time. This is no accident, no echo lost to the void, it is memory, it is relationship, a testament written in song and salt. In this vast, lonely ocean, connection is a rare gift, a melody that says, I see you, I remember you. The whale song is more than music, it is survival, it is art, it is an ancient pulse that beats beneath the waves, reminding us all that even in the deepest silence, life sings on. Closing, the lessons the wild never wanted you to forget. These stories, they are not just facts, they aren't notes to file away, they are pulses. Heartbeats, the wild's quiet insistence that life, our life, their life, cannot be so easily understood or forgotten. Memory isn't a human gift, Alani, it's the pulse of the octopus. Weaving through dark caves, the echo in whale song, stretched across oceans, it lives in the bones of elephants, carried year after year like a sacred ritual. Grief, the sharp ache of absence, doesn't belong just to use, it's in the slow mourning of a matriarch, lost in the silent tears of the pack, welcoming the orphan back from death's door. Love, war, betrayal, hope, these are not stories only told in books or whispered by us, they are the raw, savage truths of creature class, the wild's way of teaching us that beneath fur, feathers, fins, and scales beats a heart capable of more than survival, more than instinct. So if tonight you felt your chest tighten, if the cold loneliness of a lonesome wolf reached inside you, if the delicate, desperate melody of a whale's song made you pause, hold onto that, let it change you. This wasn't just a list, it was a journey through grief and joy, power and surrender. The wild, not as a place far from us, but a part of us. If you heard the whispers of the wild and they moved you, don't let this be the end. Subscribe to Creature Class, walk with us beyond walls, beyond assumptions, where wonder is the only guide. And before you go, ask yourself, have you ever seen an animal show something that changed the way you see the world? Could the wild be teaching us far more than we realize? You're listening to Creature Class, a space carved out for wonder, reflection, and the wild truths we all carry inside. Thank you for being here.